Getting on for 20 years ago now, my mentor answered when I asked the inevitable question of,
how do you manage to pull a acapella or a bit of vocal out of a final mixed track?
This was equivalent to asking, how do you get the eggs back out of a finished cake? Well, here we are in 2024, and we now have a multitude of options that allow us to get the eggs back out of the cake. So in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test 4 of the most easily accessible stem separation tools that you can all grab right now. Next to me right now will be some chapter markers if you want to skip ahead to certain positions. The format of this video is I'm going to show each platform and how it works and the different options and abilities it has, have a listen to the results across 3 different samples, of which I'm going to try and separate a simple instrumental, a very heavily compressed busy track, and a sample taken from Splice to split into its individual elements. At the end of the video, we're then going to compare the results of those separations. Today's video is sponsored by DistroKid. They let me get my music out to all of the major distributors, and they do that at a price an independent artist can easily afford. If you're ready to get your music or beats out there and want to release an unlimited amount of music each year, check the link in the description below for a discount off of your first year of unlimited distribution with DistroKid. We're going to test Lalal.ai or Lalal.ai, whatever you want to call it. So as this is browser based, anybody can use it. Now, as you can see here, I'm using the free version. Many people tell me they don't get access to a free version anymore. I don't know why that is. I'm in the UK. It still says there's a free version here, as you can see. I do have credit from previous times, so there's like 12 something minutes on there. But you can see on the free version, I can only upload 1 piece of audio at a time. If you're on one of their subscription plans, you can grab a bulk of multiple tracks or multiple samples and drop them all in at once for bulk processing if you so desire. So we use the menu on the left to choose the type of extraction we want, drums for example, and hit processing. It then takes our file offline effectively and does the processing like that. So you can go and do anything else. It doesn't use your computer for this, and then it will give you this presentation back. So first off, our instrumental, and we've got some vocal chops in that, which makes it kind of tricky for it. So let's see how well it's done in pulling out those vocal chops. Not bad at all, right? If we were to play back the instrumental now without the vocal chops, we can hear that a lot of them are still in there though. And that's done with the intent to trick this so we can get an idea of what it does. Now, what about if we were to try and pull the drums out? Let's let it reprocess for that. Okay, so here's the drum break. And that's actually done a really, really good job there. There's not really any distortion on it. It's done a great job to pull that out of a mix. That now also gives us the instrumental without the drums. Which, if you're sampling something and you found a great loop but the drums are in the way, well, you can now pull them out. Can we get the bass line? Now, I chose this beat because the bass line is pretty much all subs. You could almost get it out just using an EQ, so this shouldn't have any trouble. Yeah, and that seems perfectly fine. That's completely reusable. And what's it left behind? There's a stripped back beat without any bass line. Perfect. Now we have some other options in here that we can pull out, things like piano and synthesizer. We don't get those options in any of the others, so this is kind of a useful scenario. Let's use piano, as piano is going to be the closest to what all of the others call other. So we'll pull that out and see what we get. It's done a pretty nice job. There's definitely some high-end distortion artifacts. A bit of EQ and TLC, and that could be a usable sample for sure. And what do we have left behind? The beat stripped back with the piano and everything missing. Perfect. opportunity to play our own melody back into this example. So now we're going to try an intentionally very busy, very difficult mix where everything's very heavily compressed just to work these algorithms as hard as possible. So obviously there's some artifacts, but considering how busy that is, it's actually done a really good job in extracting the vocal out there. Next, let's see if it can do as well with the drums as it did on the sparser instrumental mix. So not as good there, but still serviceable. And if you want to take the drums out and just leave yourself with an instrumental again, really great option to be able to do that, and something that's incredibly hard to do without a tool like this. Considering that bass crosses all the layers throughout the track, it's obscured by the drums, obscured by the vocal, it's done a great job there, and we'll see some of the others later can't do that quite as well. Now I opted for synthesizer instead of piano that time, and it did a terrible job, didn't it? But it is what it is. Again, I chose this mix for it intentionally to be really difficult to pull apart and really test the limits of these things. So what we've got now is a sample from Splice, and we're just going to see how it's going to pull that apart, which could give us way more utility when working with loops if we can split the different elements out and have different sections working. Logic Pro has added stem separation literally this week with the 11.0 update, and it's very easy to use once you figure out where it is. And well, let's have a look and do our 3 files in Logic. To do the stem splitting in Logic, we need an audio channel. We're then going to bring the file onto that audio channel. We can right click, go to Processing, Stem Splitter, and there it is. We can split it out, and all we get in Logic are the 4 options. We can either try and pull those stems or not. There's no other balancing to be done. So we hit split and let that do its thing. And that was literally in real time right there, almost immediate. And here we are, it's pulled them out, and that was quite a long file. It's pulled all 4 stems, which is really good. Let's have a little comparison. It automatically mutes for us, which is nice. So let's play everything together stem wise and see what we've got. So here's the solo vocal. Now it's a little bit noisy, but this is a sample track and it's pulled from it anyway. The drum break sounds solid. A little bit of gating, maybe we could fix that up immediately from there. But it's done a really good job inputting the drums. What about this? The sub bass line should be easy. Yeah, struggling with a little bit of distortion there, but otherwise good. And then the other. A lot of rough edges on there, but some usable stuff. Let's try now the much busier drum and bass mix. Considering how busy it is, it's done a good job. Wouldn't really be usable as an acapella, but to pull it out of that kind of complex song, well, it's been that heavily limited and compressed. So good job. See if it's done good with the drums again. Yeah, not as good as the hip hop track, but it's there, it's viable. Really hollow bass line. Now, considering that's kind of a choral vocally pad, it's done well to separate that, but you can hear a lot of the melody of the vocal coming through. But I tell you what, if you wanted to make an instrumental version and strip the vocal out, not bad at all. Or if you wanted to do like a drum and vocal version and do some different instrumentation around it, that's completely viable. Alright, and let's see in another process where you might use it for sampling. So we need to give ourselves another channel. Alright, so what we got here. I'll select the little vocal chop bits. It's done quite well to separate those out. Done an excellent job of taking the drums out in this case. So if I wanted to sample this into my own beat and take the drums out, boom, that has done the job for me. Easy, strip the bass as well. And we got the chords from other. So like as a sampling tool, incredible job there. You know, so if I found this sample and I wanted to use it, and it's got the drums in it already, boom, they're gone. If I want to open up with just the chords and then bring all this in, super good job there from Logic. Let's move on and check. FL Studio is the most downloaded DAW of all time, and last year it introduced stem separation, which I did a tutorial on right here, but I will still show you how to access it, how it works, and well, the results we get from it. So in FL Studio, we've got the option to do it as well, built directly in. So obviously FL Studio does a billion other things and lets you produce a track from scratch, but it's one of the cool features if you're into sampling, want to strip things apart, doing bootlegs. What we do is drop an audio region in, and believe it or not, this little icon just here, the most tiny little thing you could imagine, is actually a menu drop down. So when we click it, we've got options in here such as extract stems from sample. We've not really got any options. We can like choose what ones to extract and what not, and we can do limit CPU usage. You can, honestly, it's not going to matter on here with like 12 cores, and then we can, when done, mute source track or mute clip or whatever it is you wanted to do. We'll mute the source track, and then we can extract. So there we are in real time, and it drops everything below. It's muted the source track so we can hear order this time, but I'm going to stick with the order we've been doing. So vocals. It's about the same as Logic, maybe a little bit better. Less artifacts. In terms of the drums, pretty good. Again, a little bit noisy as before. But again, a gate, and that's completely usable. Shouldn't be any trouble with the bass, really, should there? Little bit of distortion and clicking. So some TLC afterwards to fix that up. We got that in Logic, but not with RX10. Usable, not the best that we've had. And then other. And the same issues we've come across before, but maybe give us some usable moments in there. Let's see how it works with a really heavy, overcompressed, very busy track. So we extract the stems from this part. So this time the vocals from Light Me Up. Not too bad, the same drum artifacts we've been getting elsewhere. What about the drum break? Not bad, right? Not bad at all there. Especially those toms at the start, it's done a good job there. There's definitely some sub creeping through, but EQ would handle that for us. Good job on the break there. The bass, we've struggled with this bass in others and done really well with it in RX. So a similar issue to what we had in Logic, it's quite hollow, elements of the vocal still in there. So RX right there for us, way better on the bass end. And did it split out this vocal chord pad? We got the melody better in some elements, which is quite surprising. Alright, and our last thing, how does it go splitting out a sample? This has done a way better job on getting the little vocal hits than RX. What about the break? Again, issues with the snare, but everything else is good. It's pulled the bass perfectly fine. That's really good, in fact. Again, completely usable now, and everything else. Serviceable job there. Happy days to FL Studio. So this is by far the most expensive suite. This is RX10 Advanced, which allows me to do this stem separation along with about 10,000 other incredibly detailed things. RX is used for audio restoration and mastering purposes. This is just one tiny little fraction of what it can do. There's a tool in here called Music Rebalance, and instead of this splitting out into individual stems, we can sort of create separation, right? So we can, for example, take this here and we'll just loop a small section here, and then we'll export and test what we've got. Right, so there's the vocal chops and elements in there. We could tell it to keep the vocal exactly where it is, but drop everything else infinitely low. And then we've got a separation adjustment here, so how much of its algorithm is it going to apply, and then the quality that it could do. Now I'll have it on best. Let's do separation right the way up at 100%, and I can hit preview. It will take a second to render, but then it should isolate just those vocal parts in the overall track. All right, so it's not doing a terrible job there. Now, the amount of separation we apply here allows us some tweakability, and it will sound vastly different if we bring that right down to, say, like the 20% kind of region. And now we do preview. Now there's slightly more of the musical elements getting through, but it has grasped the vocal a lot better. So we've got some flexibility depending on the material we're working with, which is a really nice thing to be able to have. Now something else we can do is use separate, and depends on the separation algorithm here, so we could play with this in multiple ways. What we'll do, we'll leave it to 38, which is the default. We'll hit separate, and this will separate all 4 individual elements, much like it did with Logic, vocals, bass, percussion and other, and that will then give us separate files up here where it's now isolated those individual parts. And it's done a nice job on the vocal here for sure. Percussion. A little bit noisy, but with some gating we could absolutely get rid of a lot of that noise. And they were pretty crunchy, noisy drums anyway. Bass-wise, so it's done a better job than Logic in that there's no distortion happening. In fact, I could reuse that bass line. And other. As in the other instances, even it struggled here, but it has done a good job, and we could tweak it further and do it individually with the separation options. So now let's try it out on something that really does abuse it. We'll use a little clip of Light Me. And again, we're leaving that separation at 38, which is the default value, but we could tweak it and adjust it depending on the material. So here's how the vocal from Light Me Up has come out. It's ended up with a fair bit of the bass in there, but again, we could apply the ability to say take all these other aspects down, really pump that separation option up, and if we preview that, we can maybe get it a little bit further. It's done a really good job on the drums considering how over compressed everything was. They're nice and transient look. Not like that at all in the original. So good job there. Logic really struggled to pull the bass from this. And this again has done a much better job with the bass. It's not just this hollow washed out sound. There's quite a bit of remnants of the drums left here in the other aspect. Again, not bad considering how crushed together everything is in that track. Lastly, let's try the sample separation. Now it's picked up quite a bit of instrumentation as vocal here. Done a really nice job with the percussion though. Especially those hi-hats and kicks. Lots of bleed on the snare, but again, very, very good still. Bass-wise, no problem there at all. I could take that bass line and completely reuse it. And see what's left over in other. again. So bits of the vocal have got through here along with the chords. They all really blend together in terms of the same tones. But that would now be a usable sample in its own right. Not exactly what it's subscribed to be, but again, a really great job. And overall, RX10 is doing a very good job, and the fact that we have that tweakability to make the adjustments, change the quality overall, change the separation, change the balance as we desire. So maybe we can just dial the vocal back, for example, a little bit if that's what we needed. We've got all those extra options to do that, which is really, really helpful. Whereas some of the other options are just like press one button and it gives us an output. Here we've got lots of configurability. So now we've been through all of those, let's compare them all side by side so we can get a direct comparison and see, well, has one really done a better job, or are they all roughly in that same ballpark? Thank you very much for watching. I hope the video was helpful for you and gave you some ideas and maybe taught you some things you didn't know about these options that you've got available. I certainly learned some things along the way, and I'm very lucky to have access to all 4 of these options. Granted, I've had to pay for them over time, and my FL Studio updates have been free since version 6 when I bought it, and Logic 11 has just added this, and I bought Logic 10 over a decade ago at this point. So it's very nice to see this technology evolving and becoming a really useful tool inside music production. And if I could go back to my mentor right now and be like, hey look, I can now get the eggs back out of that cake.